Okie dokie, the stream is live. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon session. Today, we're going to be talking with Thrive's customer, the Nottingham Building Society, about why they chose to implement Thrive LMS and our content offering, and hopefully giving some helpful hints and tips along the way for those who might be implementing a learning platform soon. At the moment, I'm just joined by Katie from MBS. We will be joined by Lisa shortly, but she's bouncing from one meeting straight to another, as is everyone's life at the minute. So we'll see when Lisa joins. But for now, Katie, do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself and your role at MBS?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Will. Hi, I'm Katie Brown. I am a talent development partner at Nottingham Building Society. I've actually been here for 14 years now, so essentially part of the furniture. So I think, my role in terms of kind of how that looks today, it's everything training, development and coaching related, really. So we have about 520 colleagues currently, is our head count. So yeah, there's a lot of work going on in the development space, as I'm sure you can imagine, for a head count of that size. So yeah, there's lots of design, there's lots of delivery, lots of evaluation. So yeah, tons of stuff going on.
Amazing. And I was going to ask you where you were before MBS, but there's probably no point because it might have been a paper round or something like that.
I actually was I was a travel agent before I joined Nottingham. Okay. So yeah, very different. And it was everybody left happy, which was great in terms of the travel agency world. But of course, the world's shifted quite a bit since then. The high street travel agent seems to be a diminishing trade, doesn't it? Everything seems to be online and digital these days. So yeah, travel agency straight into financial services.
Nice. Well, Nottingham Building Society must be a nice company to work for, given if you've been there 14 years.
It is.
Lovely.
Part of the reason.
So we're going to start off with a couple of icebreaker questions. So just to get us into things and sort of get everyone to understand you a little bit more. And then when Lisa joins, hopefully we'll be able to ask her a couple as well. So the first question I will ask you is, what's your go-to workday beverage? Are we a coffee person? Are we a tea person, or none at all?
I'm definitely a coffee person. I don't drink tea, so that also means I don't make a very good tea, apparently. So if I don't drink it, it always seems to taste terrible for others. But definitely a coffee drinker, and I'm terrible for caffeine, so it's not just a morning beverage. It kind of sees me right through to the afternoon as well. So.
Oh, nice, fair enough. I've only had one cup of coffee in my whole entire life, and that was 2 weeks ago. So,
what were your thoughts?
I didn't like it, but it kept me awake, so it did the job. Next question of, what's the one book or podcast or TV show that you're into at the minute?
So I'm going to shamefully admit that I am watching Love is Blind. I'm a bit of it's almost like a guilty pleasure reality TV, where you can just switch off and throw yourself into something that's absolutely wild. So Love is Blind, I have been binging on Netflix. I've just finished a book actually by Lisa Jewell called None of This Is True. She's one of my favourite authors, and had me gripped. So
interesting. Okay, cool. What about your if you could pick a historical figure or a celebrity to have dinner with, who would you go for? And it can't be anyone from Love is Blind.
Can you call them celebrities? I suppose it's so difficult to pinpoint one person, isn't it, when you think of somebody famous or historical. So both of mine are people from the past. So I would either say Elvis Presley, because I just think he's a fascinating character. So I think I'd love to pick his brains and sit and have dinner with him, and then get him, of course, to perform at the end. Or Che Guevara. So again, fascinating character that I'd love to sit down and have dinner with.
Nice. My nickname on the golf course is actually Elvis Presley, because before I hit a golf shot, my legs shake a little bit. So there we go.
Great nickname. I love that.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hi. Sorry I'm late. I was struggling to get in.
That's all right. We know what it's like bouncing from meetings to meetings. We're just doing a couple of icebreaker questions before we sort of get into things. I'll bounce over to you if that's all right, Lisa. Have you got an app on your phone that you couldn't live without? If you had to have one app for the whole entire week and no other apps, what would you go to?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I haven't got that many apps on my phones.
Here's me hoping that you were going to say it was the Thrive app, but that's fine. That's fine. What about, sticking with you, Lisa, if you weren't in your world of learning and talent development, what other profession do you think you would change into quite easily or want to change into?
Oh, I love design. If I could do anything else, it would be house designs.
Okay, cool. Nice, like that.
Definitely.
Katie, back over to you for the last couple. What's the one thing you love about working at Nottingham Building Society? 14 years experience, surely there's something to love.
Oh, there's tons. I think, as cheesy as it sounds, it's the culture. And I think the culture is created by the people. I work with some phenomenal individuals, both my immediate team, but wider across the business. And I love how we put people first. And I think that's what's kept me here so long. Oh,
that's lovely. And finally to you, Lisa, you haven't had as many years experience as Katie, but have you got a favourite memory or a favourite thing to say about why you're working at Nottingham Building Society?
I think it's just the ambition. I think that's what drew me to the Nottingham in terms of the transformation journey of what we want to become in the future. It was really exciting for me.
Oh, that's really nice. Wonderful. Well, icebreaker's over, so we'll get into the nitty gritty now. Katie's introduced herself, Lisa. So if you want to give yourself a bit of an introduction to those who are watching.
Okay, hi, my name's Lisa Winnard. I'm the HR director at the Nottingham. I've been with the Nottingham now for just over 12 months. So it's been a really exciting journey so far. We have lots on our people agenda to achieve. And, you know, as Katie said, the culture is just fabulous and really enabling for us to drive and to reach our ambitions going forward. So quite an exciting time to be at the Nottingham.
Amazing, lovely. Thank you very much. And again, thank you both for joining. So what we're going to sort of hopefully do is take everybody who's joined the session today on a little bit of a journey, starting from thinking, casting our minds back a few months back to why you decided to sort of change learning platforms, what the implementation process was like, and sort of what life looks like now and what your intentions are in sort of the future for Thrive. Just to let everyone know that the comments are open. So if you've got any questions for Katie or Lisa, pop them in the comments and I'll try to sort of get through with as many of those as possible, whether that's throughout the session or at the end. So let's start off with sort of, either Lisa or Katie talking to us around sort of why did you decide to start exploring new learning platforms?
Okay. Shall I take the first question, Katie?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I think one of the things that we want to be is definitely a learning organisation and a progressive, modern, mutual society. And one of the things when I joined, in terms of the joining experience and the first learning experience, it didn't feel that it matched our ambition to become a learning organisation. And I kind of felt that the learning journey and the onboarding journey was missing something and missing an opportunity to really engage our colleagues on becoming, you know, taking responsibility for their own learning and having access to a really modern, social, compelling learning management system. And, you know, Katie and I started talking about what we wanted that experience to be and how we wanted it to really help us to start our digital journey on improving our digital fluency and really becoming a learning organisation. And that the staple for that, and the first step that we needed to take was looking at, you know, what platform have we got that all our colleagues can access and take control of their own learning journeys. And that's why we looked at Thrive, because we felt that was really modern, it was compelling, it was individual, so that people could set their own learning journeys. They could tell us how long they wanted to learn for, what subjects they were interested in learning, and we could really see as an organisation where people were spending their time learning, the kind of ways that they were looking to learn and how we could enrich their journeys. So it was really the first part of our jigsaw in becoming a digitally enabled culture and really switching up the learning experience. We didn't invest in our learning platform prior, and it was quite a rigid process, and we wanted to bring it more to life and it to be a more social platform where people could go to collaborate, to share their learning experiences, to talk to other colleagues, to share some of the learnings that they've done. And it was a lot more interactive, collaborative, and was fit for purpose for all our colleagues, whether they sat in the branch or whether they were in the head office. But it was just a common ground and more social and interactive.
Amazing. That's brilliant. And I remember when I was sort of first initially speaking with you, you could tell that you had sort of like your sight set on exactly what you needed. You had a really good vision of what you wanted to bring, and you were at this very early stage of sort of just looking at everything that was out there and available, but you kept that vision in your mind throughout the whole process, which I think is always really useful to know, useful to do when you are looking for learning platforms.
And I think what was important, Will, as well for us is that whilst we've got some great content that comes along with Thrive, what we're interested in is colleagues with a growth mindset and people that are inquisitive. So quite often our colleagues will bring outside thinking into the organisation, and we wanted a platform to be able to share that. So whether they read something on LinkedIn or they read a good article that they wanted to share with their colleagues, we could start to build those communities across leadership or management or in different areas of the society to kind of share their passion for learning and being inquisitive and bringing new information into the organisation.
Nice. And for those people who might be sort of joined today who are in the sort of the start of that process of sort of thinking of, do we need to get a new learning platform, or what are the sort of key tips you could potentially suggest for an organisation who might want to look at change learning platforms?
Katie, I'll leave this one to you.
Thank you. I think be brave, and we have a set of behaviours at MBS which encourage people to be brave and to be bold and to seek the big insight. And I would encourage you to do all of the above. When it comes to a learning management platform, what I found working with Thrive is that it gives us so much available at our fingertips to be able to shape our own learning. So, if you're in the position as an organisation where you're thinking, will it give us, extra bits for people to learn? Will it give us that, variation in terms of how people want to learn? The answer is yes. So I think using a platform such as Thrive's just gives us so many more options in terms of learning and development, which I think in our approach previously, I'm sure you'll agree, Lisa, it's been quite traditional. So we've always had what I call like an old school approach to kind of learning and development. So to have this platform available to us now, I think it just gives a real good starter for 10 to be able to then build upon.
Yeah,
nice.
And I think it gives us the flexibility, Will. I think looking for that flexibility where Thrive can host other learning interventions, and we can host them on there, and it gives us that flexibility to create our own pathways and create our own learning. And you can have a complete blend of things that you develop yourself, the content that you guys provide, or specialist content that we can just host onto Thrive. Was really interesting for us to give us that maximum flexibility as we look to develop our academies, whether it's a leadership academy, our future skills academy. We know that we've just got that central platform, but we've got that flexibility and optionality of what we might want to put in those academies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess we'll get onto it in a little bit, but I mean, you're not actually long implemented Thrive. It's only a couple of months down the line, so you're sort of relatively in its infancy. But it's great that you've sort of still got that vision of, this is what we've got now, but we really want to try and improve that and add to that over the coming months and years, hopefully. Brill. So yeah, you decided that you wanted to change learning platforms. Thankfully, you chose Thrive, which I might say was a fantastic decision on your behalf. And then we got into the implementation process. So yeah, again, Katie or Lisa, it'd be great to hear about what you thought of the implementation process, and I mean, how many people were involved in it, and how much time did it take you, and what you thought of it, really.
Cool. Shall I take this one, Lisa?
Absolutely. I think you've done most of the work, Katie. So
the implementation, from what I'm told with Thrive, we had a fairly short implementation process. So we kind of started our kickoff meeting in around March. Then 2-3 weeks later, we had a kind of full day face-to-face workshop with you guys, where you came into our office and we were able to just really thrash out all of the plans for the kind of the next part of the project. And we then actually went live kind of 7-8 weeks after that. So it was, as I say, I'm told it's quite short, but I still think gave us plenty of time to do what we needed to do. In terms of kind of who was involved, I was project lead, and then we had a lady who isn't on the call today, of course, but Freya, who I call our technical wizard. She's absolutely ace. So she works within our people and development team as a kind of people systems and MI specialist, and hands down wouldn't have been able to get this live without Freya's help. She did all of the techie stuff behind the scenes to make sure that we got the platform in a great position. But really, there was just kind of the two of us. So we had some input from, as you'd expect, our kind of tech teams to make sure that we got everything needed behind the scenes. But in terms of building out that content and thinking about what we wanted the platform to include, we did lots of kind of stakeholder relationship conversations. You know, what would they like to see for their different areas of the organisation, and starting to build big pictures on how the platform would be able to support some of those kind of development needs and gaps. But typically, yeah, the kind of day-to-day aspect of it was myself and Freya. So we had a large glass of wine once it had gone live as a celebration for the two of us that we'd managed to get it into such a good space.
Nice. No, you've done a brilliant job. I'm going to show everyone later how great it looks. So yeah, you did brilliant. And
I think one of the skills, Will, we did find, didn't we, Katie, that there were some kind of skills that you kind of, in terms of, you know, other people that are tthinking about doing this, there were certain things that kind of held you back, weren't there, Katie? I don't know if you want to talk about those that used to frustrate you, you know.
and I think the frustrations were that, with the being me and Freya, I was trying to kind of, I won't say build the platform. I'm certainly not going to take credit for your guys' work at Thrive, but from an MBS perspective, I was trying to kind of build the content, think about what we wanted it to include and look like, and there was elements or aspects. So you know, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Canva, but it's kind of the design template tool that we use to build out some of the explore pages. And having never used Canva before, it was like I was trying to learn and build and create at the same time. So I found I was kind of spinning lots of plates, but you guys were on hand to support. Yeah. So yeah, always there, other end of a phone, other end of an email to just say, stop, don't panic, it's fine, we can help. And that kind of continued really throughout that whole implementation process. We were never left in the dark with anything. We always had someone on hand to be able to step in. And just to give JP a call out, because I don't know whether he's on the call today, but he's just incredible. So from an implementation perspective, having such a technical expert on hand was a massive help.
Yeah, JP is a legend across Thrive, so he'll definitely appreciate that shout out. And for people again on the call who might be just about to go into an LMS implementation, do you have any thoughts or sort of tips that you can feed back to people? Maybe if you're something that you might have done differently that you know now that you didn't then.
I suppose I've got two. One, in terms of what would I have done differently, I think understanding the volume in terms of content. So I would have probably spent much more time with stakeholders across the business to be able to start mapping some pathway stuff into launch, because we're now working on that as we speak. So it would have been good for me to kind of consciously make more of an effort at the early stages to then be able to have certain pathways available for launch. But in terms of top tips, I would probably say always go for a pilot group. Always have a pilot group of individuals across the business that you can give access to your platform a couple of weeks before go live, just to not only create champions and advocates across the organisation, but also to just be able to test things out and kind of iron out any of those technical glitches or queries or concerns before you go live to the rest of the business. So I think that would probably be something I'd say. is a must in terms of making sure you want to get it right.
Nice. Yeah, that's really good advice. It's that classic. You might be looking at a document yourself over and over and over again, but until you give it to someone else, you don't know. Sometimes you can't see those little changes that might need to be made. And like you say, getting those champions across the business who already know about the platform prior to it going live, they can really build that excitement up across the organization. So that's a really good tip. Thank you very much for that. And then what did your launch day look like? Did you sort of put it live and then hide behind a pillow and just see what people thought about it? Did you have the glass of wine ready in the hand? How did it go down?
So launch day went really well. We launched on, it was a Tuesday 4th of June. And then we actually had a launch event the following day. So we kind of gave people access to it for 24 hours so they can have a nosy through. And then we actually did an event where we had like balloons and cakes and sweets. We launched Find the Emoji competition as well. So we've done lots of work with the comms team so that we had kind of like digital posters and stuff created, and we sent some stuff out to branches just to create some excitement. And of course, we've got the teaser video that had been sat on our intranet for a couple of weeks beforehand to get people enticed. But yeah, in terms of launch event, it was great. We had tons of engagement as well within that first week. I scribbled some stats down earlier because I'd looked at these a while ago, but I'd not refreshed myself in the last few weeks. We had, within the first week of launch, so as I say, launched on a Tuesday, by the Friday of that week, we'd already had 870 views on content. We'd had over 55% of the organisation actually log in as well within those first 4 days. So we got that instant engagement and interest as you kind of expect from that first week, which was great. So yeah, good to see the stats were so high. I had a bit of a look and it was kind of Thursday at 1 o'clock that afternoon of that week that seemed to be the most popular time. So whether people were dipping in over lunch or whatever it may be. So yeah, we'd had it up and running for 48 hours, and then people were most popular in the platform at lunchtime on the Thursday.
Amazing. Yeah, go live week is always very exciting but very anxiety driven, because you've been working on it, as you say, for 7 or 8 weeks, which is quite a quick implementation, but it's good that you've done it in that time. You spend all your time on it and then you think, oh God, is everyone going to like it? I don't know. So
we do.
Great to get that immediate feedback.
Yeah, definitely. I think the pilot group for us, so certainly for Freya and I, we saw that as like our mini launch. So Freya and I were working towards that as the point in which it was the hide behind the pillow. Is anybody going to like it kind of thing? So by the time we got to the all colleague launch a couple of weeks later, we actually felt a little bit more relaxed because we'd given ourselves that opportunity to iron some of that stuff out with the pilot group.
Nice. And Lisa, did you sort of, as the sort of like overarching sort of looking over the project, did you have any like sign off points throughout this process, or did you just sort of say to Katie, this is your baby, we trust in terms of what you're going to be doing with it?
Yeah, it was absolutely Katie's baby in terms of, what we wanted to deliver. I think, we were keen, I was keen to kind of look at the imagery. Katie will kind of laugh at me in terms of, trying to get the look and feel right. I had in my mind, that we wanted this really fresh, modern take. And so it was really important that, in the first few days, people had access to, some examples of what we wanted to put on there. So I think I did the first look over, didn't I, Katie, in terms of does it feel, and are we having that immediate impact in terms of some of the content that we were putting up there for the first instance. But yeah, absolutely. It achieved everything we wanted to achieve. And I think Katie did a fabulous job, working with the Thrive team in terms of delivering what we wanted to deliver. There's so much more work to do. We're only, eight? Is it 8? I don't know. Yeah. We're in now, we are. But yeah, we've so much more work to do in engaging with leaders across the society to start to create those pathways and to start to generate those communities of practice, if you like, in terms of developing the content. We've done a lot of work in supporting some of our employee resource groups. I don't know, Katie, if you want to talk through some of the work that we've done there, and we've had a fantastic response in, providing more education and communication through some of the content. Katie, I don't know if you want to share some of the work we've done.
Yeah, we've got so we've worked really closely with our internal comms team, but also we have a lady called Laura who works in our team as a colleague and wellbeing manager, and all worked really closely together to ensure that from an LMS perspective that we've been kind of producing content in there that's linked to some of our ED&I work across the organisation. So recently this year we've launched a couple of employee resource groups. So we did a mental health network. We've recently launched an Embrace, which is an ERG centred around kind of support with race and ethnicity. And you guys have got tons of content. So it's great to be able to link in to all of the work that we're doing as a wider business when it links to ERGs and the DE&I space, to be able to link it in with internal comms to say, here's a blog, take a read, and here's a link for some additional resources that you can access. So it's all kind of working together as an organisation to make sure that what sits within our comms and intranet then feeds nicely into what we've got available for people from learning resource perspective.
Amazing. Yeah, being able to link those sort of different initiatives from across the organisation into one central platform always lands really well. And again, that's something that you can grow over time. I think people implementing a learning platform might think, oh, we've got to tackle everything right away, but you absolutely can't do that. So just starting off with 3, 4, 5 initiatives that you want to tackle really well, and make sure the learners have a sort of a good experience based on that, and then growing that in the future. So I think it's a brilliant way that you're doing it. Before I go on to my next question, we've actually had a question from the panel. So Becky O'Neill, thanks for getting in touch, Becky. She's asked, did you have an LMS before Thrive? And if you did, who was that?
Do you want to take that one, Lisa, or do you want me to?
You can take that one.
So yes, we actually still have our existing LMS because, as Lisa alluded to at the start, the experience that we have for people when it comes to learning, so to speak, or e-learning particularly, it's all centred around the mandatory, or was centred around the mandatory and regulatory content. So we used Skillcast to provide us with all of that. And we're currently in a position where we are looking to decommission that and move all of our mandatory and regulatory content into Thrive, so that we've got that one centralised place for people to be able to access what they need. With this being a regulated organisation, I'm sure you can imagine there's tons of modules, there's loads of learning that sits in Skillcast, some of it quite clunky, quite archaic, a little bit kind of read this screen, grey square, click next, move on to the next one. And from a learner experience, it's not the best. So it's a kind of slow phase into moving from Skillcast into Thrive. And we've kind of put an end of year date on that.
Nice. And I think the fact that you got 55% active users on the platform within the first week is not only a great start in itself, but the fact that none of that was driven by compliance, and it's all sort of like self-directed career progression or self-progression path content speaks volumes. And hopefully we'll of course get the compliance stuff on there as well, which we know we can cater for. That will just only continue to improve. And again, it's that iterative approach of we'll tackle the key things that we can do now, and then we'll add to more stuff in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it just makes it feel much more manageable. You know, I've referenced it was myself and Freya on the project. And so to bring that mandatory piece in for the launch date, it was too much too soon. So actually being able to break it down into those manageable chunks, and also from a learner experience, they've got that opportunity now to get in and focus on all the, I like to call it the sexy stuff, all the nice soft skill kind of learning that sits in there. And then we can layer that up with the mandatory and regulatory stuff. We didn't want to go live with mandatory and reg, so that people then just see it as a different place for that type of learning. We wanted to create a platform that, you know, people are engaged with and we've got good adoption on before we then move into the compliance stuff.
Bro, thank you very much. And what's this sort of, I get asked this question a lot, and in terms of like, if we implement Thrive or if we implement a learning management system, how much of my day-to-day activities is it going to take up? I mean, are you able to talk to that at all, Katie?
Yeah, sure. Freya, to be quite honest, picks up the back office stuff, as we call it. So we have, because of the nature of how some of our systems and platforms, other systems and platforms are built within the organisation, we have like a manual data upload that we do on a weekly basis. So just to keep us up to date with new starters and leavers, etc. In terms of the day-to-day management, it does kind of look after itself. So we drop in every kind of week or so, we add some new content in there. So we're keeping it fresh. We're adding new modules in for people to dip into. We've used it to host some events as well. So again, we drop those in there and we kind of create the event in Thrive. So it all sits in one place. So it's really, it's down to us how much or how little we want to do in there. I think the biggest piece of work comes pre-launch, because you're building what you want to be accessible for people. And then after that, we just kind of dip in and look at the stats and what is it telling us in terms of what people are searching for, what are they interested in. And then we can use that data to be able to drop in, refreshed content every week or so to make sure that we're giving people what they're looking for.
Nice. Okay, really useful. Thank you very much for that. Well, without further ado, why don't I share my screen and we'll dive into the platform. And it'd be great if you could just talk through a couple of sort of favourite parts or areas of the platform. So should be on screen now. We're on your homepage, which, as we mentioned earlier, looks great, looks very inviting. We've got a great campaign banner up at the top there, which is promoting Mental Health Awareness Week, which is brilliant. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk more about those campaigns that I know you've delivered quite a lot, and it's Mental Health Awareness Week at the moment, but you've done a fair few of those, haven't you, Katie?
We have, yeah. And as I said, I'd probably say that's been our biggest success in terms of what's landed really well. The campaigns always go down well because we like to keep them fresh as well. So we don't want to keep something on there for long periods of time so that, when you log in, you see the same thing repetitively. You do just, it's almost like second nature, isn't it, when you log in? So we have had, this will be our third campaign now that we've had in 10 weeks. So when we started at launch, we had a kind of getting to know Thrive campaign. So it was just some videos in terms of how to use the platform. It was a big welcome to our learning place. I should have probably referenced at the start that we did rebrand our platform as our learning place, which you can probably see from the logo in the top left corner. So we did a whole welcome kind of campaign. Then we moved into Pride, and we had lots of Pride resources available. We were also the sponsor for Notts Pride. So Nottingham Building Society were the main sponsor this year, which was dead exciting. So amazing. We kind of, we stretched that campaign out a little bit because that didn't take place until July. So we kind of kept all of the resources and tools available for that point. And then, as you can see here, we've got the mental health awareness. So specifically linked to our mental health first aiders. So we have a number of mental health first aiders across the business. And it was really just to give a bit of a refresh. So we did lots of blogs and lots of information sharing on our intranet, and within those blogs we were kind of pointing people in the direction of getting in here and having a look at some of those tools. So we were just centering it around, take 5 minutes for yourself, have a nosy, have a read, see what's available to you, and that will then sit there. You can probably see from the date till kind of early September, and then we're going to look to replace that with some Embrace related tools. So we've got a whole kind of calendar for the next 12 months in terms of what are the business comms, what are the ED&I initiatives, what are the things that we really want to be able to celebrate in the platform, and then we're linking that into what those campaigns include. So, I was just going
to add to that and build on it, Katie, in that come 2025 we'll start to be building out our academies as well. So that colleagues will have access to a change excellence hub, a leadership hub, and also a future skills. So working out, what are those future skills that we want to develop over the next, 2 years, and people will have access to those, and we'll be building out the pathways. So in addition to the education and the ERG, campaigns that we're running, we hope to see a shift so that people will be starting to tap into those academies and to utilise the content that we've got in there and the pathways and the learning pathways within those academies that's going to be available.
Amazing. So moving sort of utilising the platform for that sort of self-directed piece at the moment, and sort of general self-progression, then moving towards that more career and skill progression within the platform as well.
Absolutely. And it will be a blend. So, we're going to be rolling out a new management development program, which Katie's rolling out, but that will be supported by content on Thrive for people to, do some self-directed learning as part of that program as well. And it will all be connected as part of, one program.
Nice, amazing. And I guess just the concept of your homepage is brilliant. So it'd be lovely just to walk through it. And then Katie, if you're able to sort of add any info around why you chose to utilize these blocks. But for the context of people on the call who may not have seen Thrive before, as Katie mentioned, we have this concept of campaign banners at the top, which are used to promote initiatives like Mental Health Awareness Week, or Black History Month, or Pride, Learning at Work Week. And as Katie mentioned, as a learner clicks the campaign, the learners are then surfaced some content based on that topic, so they can upskill themselves in that area. But then everything below the campaign banners are sort of the blocks that you've created on the homepage, haven't you, Katie? So what was your mindset when you were building out these, and why did you decide to have these elements on the homepage?
Going back to kind of what I said at the start, the initial campaign in terms of getting people to head into the platform, familiarise themselves with the how-to and the different functionalities within there. We wanted to give people within the homepage that instant access on what does my homepage do and what is the Q&A functionality, and if I were to click into learn, what does that mean? So there are some brilliant resources that we were able to kind of take from the Thrive Content Hub to be able to build into here. So we certainly wanted to give people a bit of a head start, because I'm sure, Lisa, you'll agree, in our organisation, people love to know how to do something, and as much support as we could give them, the better. So we wanted to just kind of pop these videos in, and they're all really short and sweet. So one of the biggest bits of positive feedback actually that we get is, and I don't know if you can see it on there, it's a little bit small, but every piece of content that sits within the platform has got a little clock next to it, which tells you exactly how long it's going to take to complete. So when somebody was kind of first logging into here, we put the time on there so they can say, actually, it's a 2-minute video to be able to click in and show me how to use my homepage or how to use my learn page. So we certainly wanted to give people that quick, immediate access for some how-to. The bit underneath in terms of short on time, the reason that I wanted to include this was because we do a survey, as I'm sure most people on the call, I'm sure their organisation does something similar, but our colleagues were telling us that when it comes to personal development, the thing they struggle most with is time. So it's being able to give themselves that priority to be able to focus on development. And so what I thought would be good was to pop in a short on time block so that people can actually click in to where it says 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, and actually realise that development doesn't always need to be, a half-a-day workshop or an 18-month qualification program. It can be a 4-minute learning module on a whole variety of different topics and subjects. So we wanted to put that in there just to highlight to people that if you're short on time, perfect, here's a section for you to be able to have a look at.
Nice. Meeting the learners where they are, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's gone down really well. The bit underneath was some FAQs. So this was where we used some of the feedback from the pilot group. So we created a kind of centralized Teams chat where they were able to feed in with some common questions. And that's the type of stuff that we've built into the FAQs. So we thought if the pilot group are asking it, chances are other people in the organisation are going to ask the same. So we just built in some kind of startup FAQs, and we can just keep adding to them. So as and when we do get questions in, it's a case of just going in and adding in another question so that people can click straight in and get the answers. Because sometimes knowing where to find the answers is the most difficult bit, isn't it? So at least if we've got that available on the homepage, it kind of gives them a head start.
Nice. And sorry to interrupt, Katie, do you have the ability, do you allow your learners to upload those questions themselves as well, or have you just limited that to admins?
We have given people the access to be able to ask their own questions. Yeah, so we have limited what people are able to do right now. As I say, we're in our infancy, so we've just kind of given them the limited access, but we have built questions into there. So yeah, they can go in and kind of add the question.
So from a learner perspective, which I'm logged in now, learners are able to upload their own files and links, but also add questions. So getting that immediate feedback from people, which is brilliant. And it's that sort of dipping your toe go into the first aspect of user generated content. And like I say, you don't want to start with everything and allowing everyone to upload anything, limiting that, and then maybe sort of growing that incrementally over time, which is brilliant.
Exactly. And we've actually built into one of those FAQs, how do I add my own content? If I've got something that I've read or that I've seen or that I've accessed somewhere else that I think would be useful for others to see, how do I add it in? So we actually built that into one of the questions, and we've kind of just put some bullet point steps for people so that they can go in, have a look at the question, and then crack on and have a go. And we have seen some user generated content in there, which is fab.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's amazing. And the last couple of blocks on here, you've got some suggested reading, which again, I assume has been sort of determined by you, just to try and get those initiatives out to people and some of the latest content to keep people updated.
Exactly that, yeah. And you can see from the bottom there, we've got a couple of events that we built in as well. So some of the other tools and platforms that we use across the business, we did some kind of masterclasses. So we built the events into here for people to be able to book themselves on. So again, it's trying to just create that centralized place for people to be able to go and see everything in one platform. And of course that's going to evolve over time, but we're slowly starting to build and bringing as much into Thrive as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you're early in your journey of Thrive, so the platform's going to grow over time. I guess the other side to the site to show is your explore section, which I think is really well thought out. So again, context for those people on the call who haven't seen Thrive before. You have the homepage, which is kind of like living and breathing and almost like a reflection of your content strategy that week or that month. And then you have this explore section, which is kind of like your library of everything and anything that's on the platform. So learners can just go into here and find the things that they want or search for topics that they're interested in. Have you got any comments on some of the areas that you've built out here, Katie?
Yeah, this was probably one of the most difficult parts, actually. So we're trying to, pre-launch, trying to think about just 12 areas in terms of high level topics or subjects that we wanted to build in. I found that really difficult. And it was really from some advice from the Thrive implementation team around, you can have more. If you want to put, 15, 16, 20 in there, please do. But just be mindful that from a learner's experience, it's a little bit overwhelming. So it's trying to create something that is, limited in terms of quick view for 12 tiles, but then building the detail that sits behind each of those. So we actually had a content mapping template that was sent to us from you guys that enabled us to just start building. What are those high level explore tiles? What are those second layers? So I don't know if you want to click into one of them, Will, and it'll kind of give you an example, but you can build then what we call like kind of secondary layers behind each of those tiles. So it's thinking about the first layer, the second layer, and then actually what do we want to exist behind those tiles? So yeah, lots and lots of thoughts and kind of questions in my own head when we were building this out in terms of, I'm in a customer service role. What would I need? I am a colleague that's interested in understanding what's available to me from a wellbeing perspective. What am I going to need? So I was trying to put myself in the shoes of all of the different examples that you can see in this explore page, and then providing those relevant resources behind each.
Brilliant. It's almost sort of like limiting yourself because you want to put as much on it as possible, don't you? But again, you don't want to overload the learners. As I mentioned at the start of the call, you took our learning platform and you also took our off-the-shelf catalogue as well, which I've got up on the screen here, which has loads and loads of over sort of 1,000 different resources and loads of different topics. So how did that lean into sort of the content that you were putting on the platform?
This was the anchor, really. So I was using this as bringing everything back to Content Hub and thinking, what does Content Hub offer us? And then what have we got from an MBS perspective to then, marry up. So we use this tons and tons. Freya and I had great time actually navigating through Content Hub. I still do. I'm in there on a regular basis. And what I love is the you can see from each of them when it's got that little red banner in, it tells you that it's new content. So that's kind of what we've been using to build into that recently added content block, because you've got quick access to know whether or not you've used it or not, because if it says new, chances are we've not already added it in. So but it's like exactly like you say, it's a catalogue. So there's tons of stuff in there, but it's just thinking what can we put in without overwhelming people? And also, we don't want to use everything at the start and then, kind of get 6 months in and think, crikey, we've actually got everything in there already. We wanted to do it phased and gradual, which is exactly where we're at now. So.
Amazing. That's awesome. And sorry if you heard my dog in the background there. She obviously wants to join the conversation. She really likes the Content Hub, I think.
I think she does.
And did you utilize the campaign? I know you mentioned that you ran a couple of 3 or 4 campaigns so far. Are you utilizing this as a bit of inspiration?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of the Pride stuff actually came from the existing preset campaign that you've got in here. So yeah, there's absolutely tons. And this has been really helpful. When I talked earlier around kind of mapping it to our comms calendar and our initiatives from a D&I perspective, it was this kind of campaign calendar in front of us here that I actually used as a kind of source of inspiration. So yeah, and because it goes in date order as well, it works. My brain likes that it goes in the right order in terms of the calendar year. So it makes it easy for mapping.
Yeah, I always see this as just like a content creator's dream, because you can spend hours and hours creating your own content, but here's a calendar throughout the year of all of the different initiatives. And what we've essentially done, again, for those who haven't seen it before, created a calendar of events that happen throughout the year and created content based on those topics. So Pride, like you've mentioned, created loads of resources around that, so we can encourage organizations to promote those initiatives and get learners exploring things that they might never have thought to explore before. So yeah, great to see that it's being utilized so well at MBS. Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. Nice bit of insight into your platform. Well, as we tie things up, a couple more questions. So I guess one from me is in terms of, you've got Thrive at the moment and you're doing some really great initiatives on it, but what's next for Thrive? Where do you see this going in the future? It'd be great to hear from both yourself, Katie, and the sort of like day-to-day use of the platform, and Lisa, your sort of overarching look at the platform as well.
Yes, I suppose, as you say, the kind of day-to-day aspects of it. I've talked a lot about that mandatory and regulatory piece of work. So I'm really playing that down. It's actually enormous. So we're trying to just currently review all of what that looks like, feels like, what the experience includes, and bringing all of that together into how we can weave into Thrive. So yeah, loads of work going on behind the scenes in terms of getting that bit right. And then for me as well, it's building those pathways. It's starting to think about, what do we want for somebody that's in a customer service role? What are all of those different chunks of content that we want to be able to blend into a pathway that we can then share and they can work through at their own leisure, and yet they can always refer back to as a kind of source of guidance and information. So certainly lots of conversations happening in terms of different areas across the business and what they would like to see for their people. Lisa,
exciting. What about yourself, Lisa? What are you looking forward to?
I think I'm looking forward to building out the different academies, which I've talked about, and, really truly embedding us as a skills-based organisation, and ensuring that all, our colleagues have got all the tools that they need to do self-directed learning.
Oh, I think you've just gone on mute, Will.
It had to happen at some point, didn't it? We're at the end of the session and I nearly got through it without. Thank you for that. That's been really, really insightful. And we're coming up towards the end of the session now. So again, a big thanks to both of you for taking the time out of your very busy days and talking us through your journey so far. Maybe we could do this again in a year's time and see how your platform's developed in the next 12 months. I think that'd be a cool exercise to do and look back on where we are now and where you will be in the future. So again, thank you to that. Thank you everyone for joining. This has been the first part of a sort of a mini series that I'm doing. So next week I'll be doing a very similar session, but with a very different company in Burger King. So they've not long implemented the platform as well, and they're going to be talking through, again, just like Katie and Lisa have done, about why they implemented Thrive and how they've used it. So it'd be great to see the differences between that. And Katie, Lisa, if you're free next Thursday at 2:00, you're more than welcome to join and ask
Brilliant,
questions.
yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
But yeah, if that's it. Thank you again for your time. I'm sure Katie and Lisa won't mind me saying that if anybody has any questions for them, welcome to reach out via LinkedIn. But thank you again both for your time and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks for having us.